Guys, we are reading Zoe and Sassafras, Unicorns and Germs by Asia Citro. I did get approval by Scholastic to do this, so yeah. Here I go. Prologue. These days, my cat, Sassafras, and I are always desperately hoping we'll hear our barn doorbell. I know most people are excited to hear their doorbell ring. It might mean a present or package delivery or a friend showing up to play. But our doorbell is even more exciting than that because it's a magic doorbell. When it rings, it means there is a magical animal waiting outside our barn. A magical animal who needs our help. My mom's been helping them basically her whole life, and now I get to help, too. Chapter 1, Mystery Project. I threw open the front door, tossed my backpack to the ground, and scooped up Sassafras. I missed you so much, I kissed his head. Sassafras licked my nose, then sniffed my ear. Yep, it's still better. No more ear infection. I spun him once, then set him down. I popped my head in the kitchen. Mom, I'm home. No, Mom, but there was a bunch of stuff set out on the kitchen counter. Meow. Sassafras asked from the floor. Here you go, Sassafras. I picked him up to give him a better view. Mom had set out a carton of whole milk, a little container of plain yogurt, a bunch of jars, a pot, a big spoon, and a food thermometer. What could it be for? Sassafras touched the milk carton with a paw. Meow. I didn't hear you come in. Mom walked into the kitchen. I thought we could make something new today. Mom came up behind me and put her hands on my shoulders. Have you figured out what you're making yet? I know it's something with a lot of milk. Wait, is it cheese? Not cheese, but a good guess. Mom tapped a little container of yogurt. We're going to make homemade yogurt. Sassafras purred. Yum! But wait, we have a container of yogurt there. I don't get it. Are we making yogurt with yogurt? Sort of. Did you know that you only need 2 ingredients to make homemade yogurt? Really? Just milk and yogurt? In a way, yes. Technically, you only need milk and live bacteria. You can order live bacteria online, but it's much easier to get it from store-bought yogurt. Sassafras growled, live bacteria? As in it's still alive? I took a step back, but I got rid of the bacteria that gave me an ear infection. Mom laughed and ruffled Sassafras' fur. There are all kinds of bacteria on your body right now. In and on my body? Yeesh! Sassafras puffed up, and I set him down to scratch my arms. Mom laughed harder. Oh, you two. Only some bacteria are harmful. In fact, most are helpful. Bacteria in your body help you digest food when you eat. They keep your insides safe from dangerous bacteria and viruses. And of course, Mom said, a dramatic wave with her arm. We even use some kinds of bacteria to make delicious food. Mom pulled a chair over for Sassafras and nudged the pot, carton of milk, and recipe towards me. Sassafras watched from the chair, and Mom helped me with the steps involving the stove. When we got to the part where I stirred some of the store-bought yogurt into some of the warm milk, Sassafras skirled and ran under the kitchen table. What's wrong, buddy? Remember, this is good bacteria. And you love yogurt. Sassafras looked around, but he wouldn't budge. I shrugged and kept working. As I finished pouring the mixture of milk and yogurt into a bigger pot of cooling milk, the pot slid a little. Huh? That was weird. It felt like the house had moved. Mom peered into the pot of cooling milk. This looks great. I'll just pour this into those last few empty jars, and the jars on the table counter rattled. Mom looked around. Did you feel that? I slowly nodded. Then the kitchen table and chairs shook. Earthquake! Mom shouted. Mom and I dove under the table. I covered sassafras with my body and held one arm over the back of my neck and grabbed the table leg. Mom did the same. The shaking got worse and then stopped. Mom and I looked up at each other. Then the barn doorbell rang. Doorbell. Chapter 2. The doorbell rang again. Should I? I asked. Well, I think it's over, Mom said. That was unexpected. We never get earthquakes around here. Are you all alright? Yeah, I'm fine. I stayed under the table while Mom stood up and looked around. A glass jar had fallen on the ground and broken. The doorbell rang again. Okay, you run out back to see who needs help. Take sassafras. I don't want him to step on the glass. I'll get this glass cleaned up and finish getting our milk mixture into the cooler to stay warm, so we can still have our yogurt tomorrow. I should be there in just a few minutes. And Zoe, if you feel another earthquake, cover up and stay away from anything that could fall on you. I nodded, and Sassafras and I ran out the door. By the time we got into the barn, the doorbell had rung 2 more times. I threw open the back door, stepped out, and almost slammed into a rainbow wall. Or, whoa, not a wall, a giant, huge, enormous rainbow hoof! That filled the entire doorway. I left out a small squeak. I looked up, and way up was a giant horse head with a rainbow mane and a shiny golden horn? No way! A unicorn! I cleared my throat. Hello? A large booming voice called out, Hello, ow! Girl, help. It was hurt. I stepped back and saw that the ginormous unicorn was holding one of its hoofs in the air. Wait, was that what caused the earthquake? If the unicorn was hopping on 3 legs, then there was a rustling in the bushes. The smell of peppermint filled the air. I looked towards the bushes as our forest monster friend, Gorp, popped out. This was shaping up to be the weirdest day ever. Gorp calmly walked over to me. Hey, Zoe, did you feel that earthquake? Unicorn? I spluttered. Gorp looked up at the giant unicorn. Oh, hey, little one, Gorp cooed as he pet the enormous unicorn leg. Little one, I thought. Hello, monster, ow! Oh, poor thing. Gorp peered around at the unicorn's raised hoof and nodded. Ah, that's what caused all that shaking in the forest. Zoe, are you okay? You're not saying much. So big, I whispered. Big? Gorp chuckled. But he's so small, he must be a baby. Well, wait, what? But Gorp, he's enormous. Gorp looked confused. How big did you expect him to be? I felt my face flush. I thought, oh my gosh, unicorns were the same size as horses. Gorp laughed really hard. That's the size of a horse. Humans are hilarious. Unicorns are always gigantic, obviously. It took him a while to catch his breath. That was a good one, Zoe. I realized that Sassafras hadn't thrown himself into Gorp's arms yet. Weird. I looked around for him and was about to call his name when a large booming voice interrupted me. Girl, help! Ow! Sassafras would have to wait. Oh, I'm sorry, I hollered up to the unicorn. Yes, of course. Can you show me the owl? Fixing the owl. Chapter 3. The unicorn carefully lowered its gigantic hoof. Gorp and I took a step closer to look for anything unusual. I pointed at the scratch about the size of my arm and turned to Gorp. Do you think that might be causing the trouble? Then I heard a squeal behind me. It was my mom. She stood with her hands pressed against her cheeks, staring up at the unicorn. Oh my goodness! Aren't you just the cutest little thing? She put her arm around me. Oh, Zoe, how special! A little itty bitty baby unicorn. I slapped my forehead. Was I the only one who didn't know the actual size of unicorns? Glorp cleared his throat. Oh my goodness. I didn't see you there, Gorp. Mom said, how are you doing? She gave him a hug. Gorp turned to show off his shiny fur. Quite well. I was playing with friends in the forest, then we felt the earth shaking. They sent me to figure out what it was. I thought you two would know. The unicorn shifted a little and the ground shook again. Help, please. Oh, sorry, all three of us called up at once. I pointed to the scratch. This is all I could find, I told Mom. It seems pretty small compared to a unicorn's huge leg. Do you think it's like the unicorn version of a paper cut? It's small, but it hurts a lot. Mom walked around the leg and nodded. That's all I'm seeing, too. What's your plan? Oh, right. I needed a plan. I was about to start thinking out loud when my dad opened the back door of our house. Honey, he called. Why are so many things on the floor in here? Was there an earthquake? Mom turned to me. I'd better go talk to your dad. Good thing he was at the store during this, since he can't see magical creatures. I'm sure he'd be horribly confused right about now. I know you'll come up with a great plan for how to help the unicorn. I'll be inside if you need me. Girl, see, ow! How, girl, fix? I do see the scratch. It must hurt a lot. Let me go grab something and I'll figure out what to do. 1 minute. I turned to Gorp. I'll be right back. I just need to grab my thinking goggles to figure this out. Gorp nodded. I should head back to my friends. They're still wondering what happened. The baby unicorn will be okay, right? Definitely. I stood up a little straighter. You can tell your friends I'm taking care of it. Will do, said Gorp. Thanks, Gorp. Oh, and say hi to Sanfrias for me, I guess. Then he headed back into the forest. Sanfrias? Where was that cat? I waved goodbye and jogged into the barn. Aha! I found my thinking goggles right next to the blanket with a fluffed up shaking tail sticking out from under it. Sass! I whispered. I lifted the blanket and discovered the rest of the fluffed out shaking cat. Okay, so at least Sassafras was also surprised by the unicorn size. Oh, buddy, it's just a baby unicorn. He won't hurt you, I explained. But it wasn't any use. Sassafras was too freaked out. Why don't you stay here and I'll go get help? Meow. Sassafras agreed. I gently covered him up again with the blanket and gave him a reassuring pat. Then I plucked my thinking goggles on my head and walked back out to talk to. Where were my manners? I'd forgotten to ask if the unicorn had a name. I leaned my head way back. Hello again. I've got my thinking goggles, so I should have a plan soon, but I forgot to ask. Do you have a name? The unicorn nodded his gigantic head, and a huge gust of wind almost knocked me to the ground. I held on the nearest tree trunk, so I didn't blow away. Teeny, said the unicorn. You have got to be kidding me. Your name is Teeny? The unicorn nodded again, and this time my thinking goggles flew off. I chased them down and made a mental note to try to avoid asking Teeny yes or no questions. Nice to meet you, Tiny. Oh, oh my gosh. Tiny, that's the word. Oh my gosh. Nice to meet you, Tiny. I'm Zoe. Let's see here. You have a cut on your back of your leg down here. Zoe, fix it? Yes, I will. I just need to think. I tapped my thinking goggles. My knees started to itch. Oh, my knee. I had fallen last week while chasing some friends at school and had gotten a scrape. Tiny. When I get a scrape or a cut, the first thing my mom asked me to do is rinse it really well with water. Then she dries it and puts some antibacterial cream on it. The cream is like medicine to kill any bad bacteria. After that, she covers it with a bandage. In a day or two, I'm as good as new. I'll do the same thing for you, but I need to think bigger. I mean, you're going to need a slightly bigger bandage, I giggled, thinking of one of my tiny bandages on Tiny's and ginormous unicorn leg. Okay, said Tiny. First up, rinsing. I can't possibly get you to a sink. I need something bigger. I adjusted my thinking goggles. I need a really big faucet like a hose. I ran to the side of the barn and dragged the hose over to Tiny. Next, I'd have to dry the cut. Mom had dried my knee with a washcloth. Thinking bigger, I realized I'd need a blanket. After drying, I'd need a way to put some antibacterial cream on, a lot of antibacterial cream, and a bandage the size of, well, me. I'm going inside for supplies. I'll be right back, Tiny. Inside, I told my mom the plan, and she distracted my dad while I made a pile of kitchen table, a blanket, and the largest paintbrush, a large tube of antibacterial cream, scissors, and a roll of paper towels, plastic wrap, and packaging tape. I loaded everything in my arms and headed out to Tiny. I'm going to spray some water on your hoof. I held the hose above my head and rinsed the cut. Cold, Tiny yelped. Almost done, I hollered. I just need to make sure I've washed out any dirt or bad stuff that could be in there. After one final spray with the hose, I dried his cut with the blanket. Next, I squeezed antibacterial cream onto my paintbrush. I stood on my tippy toes and painted the whole tube of cream onto the cut. Then I gently placed folded paper towels over the cut. After that, I took the plastic wrap and I walked in circles around Tiny's leg, pulling the plastic wrap tight to hold the paper towels in place. Finally, I topped it all off with some packaging tape. Okay, Tiny, I think that should help. Come back tomorrow and I'll check on your leg. It should start feeling better really soon. Zoe, nice. Thank you. I moved away from the barn and the trees and waved goodbye to Tiny. Then I crouched on the ground and covered my head and neck until Tiny's earth-rattling hops faded away. Chapter 4. Waiting. Sassafras hopped into my lap and looked up at me. I giggled and tapped his nose. You missed a spot. He licked the dot of yogurt off his nose and settled down, purring in my lap. The milk mixture we'd warmed overnight had magically changed into yogurt this morning. Well, I guess not magically. The bacteria had been working on changing the warm milk into yogurt all night. But since I couldn't see the bacteria at work, it did seem a little bit like magic. I took another bite. Yum. These bacteria are delicious, I declared. Mom giggled. The honey I drizzled on top doesn't hurt either, huh? I smiled and took my last bite. Do you think Tiny is okay? It's been raining so hard. Magical creatures tend to heal quickly. I bet he is feeling much better today. Sassafras jumped up in surprise and accidentally bonked my chin. Ow! I said, Geez, Sassafras. But he wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the door to the backyard. He let out a low growl, then jumped down and huddled under the kitchen table. Mom, what's the matter with Sass? And then I felt it. The house shook, dishes rattled, chairs slid. Tiny! Mom and I dove under the table with sassafras. I held my head down with my hand over my neck. I really thought that I'd fixed Tiny's cut, but because our house was shaking so much, I guess that Tiny wasn't feeling any better. But why is Tiny still limping? I blurted out. Mom had her head down and neck covered too. I don't know, sweetie. You'll just have to wait for the doorbell and find out. The shaking stopped and the doorbell rang. Dad ran into the kitchen. Are you both okay? What is going on with all these earthquakes? This is getting out of hand. My mom and I crawled out from under the kitchen table. She squeezed my arm and whispered, You go. I'll talk to Dad. Dad kissed my head and hugged Mom. On my way to the door, I heard Mom tell him that she was having her colleagues look into it. Dad probably thought she meant the professors at the college where she worked, but she really meant me. I grabbed the raincoat and tugged on my rain boots. Between the rain and the ginormous unicorn, there was no way sassafras was coming with me. I ran out to the barn, avoiding the puddles. Once Tiny was better, I had plans to do some serious puddle jumping, but right now I need to work. Tiny spotted me and took a final hop closer. His good front hoof landed right in an enormous puddle. It created a giant splash of muddy rainwater, which, of course, completely soaked me. Oops. I wiped my face and smiled. It's not every day that you get drenched by a giant unicorn. But my smile quickly faded when I saw Tiny still holding the bad leg in the air. Hi, Tiny. How is your leg feeling? I held my breath, hoping to hear it was hurting less. Leg, bad. Ow, very bad. I let out my breath and my shoulders drooped. Can I look? Tiny carefully lowered his back leg, and I began peeling the tape off. Once I had unpeeled the tape and the plastic wrap, I gasped. Tiny's cut looked puffy and red, even worse than it had yesterday. It was puffy and red. It meant Tiny's cut was infected. Tiny's leg was only going to get worse and worse. The antibacterial cream had always worked for me. I didn't know what to try next. I took a deep breath and hollered at the top of my lungs, Mom! Chapter 5. Now what? Mom patted Tiny's hurt leg and shook her head. You're good, Zoe. The cut is definitely infected and the antibacterial cream isn't working. What do you think we should do? I don't know. Every time I look at the horrible cut on Tiny's leg, I felt like crying. It must hurt so much. I wish there was something I could do to fix it. Wait, can I go get my thinking goggles? Mom nodded and I dashed off. I found them, put them on, and adjusted them so they were just right, and headed back to Mom and Tiny. About 15 seconds after putting on the thinking goggles, I figured it out. An experiment, I shouted. Mom smiled. I need to get rid of the infection. The antibacterial cream didn't stop the bacteria. I've got to find something that will. Good thinking, Mom said, and gestured for me to continue. But if I try something else on Tiny's cut, I'll have to wait a day or two to see if it's working. That would take too long. I paced around. I need to find a way to grow a bunch of bacteria on my own so I could test different things at the same time. And I also need to figure out a bunch of things that might stop bacteria. I stopped pacing and turned to Mom. How do you grow bacteria? And are there other kinds of creams that get rid of it? How about I help you grow the bacteria and you research other things that will stop it, Mom suggested. I nodded. That seemed like it could work. I called up to Tiny. I need to set up an experiment to figure out how to help your cut. Could you maybe lie down out here? I don't want to make you stand for that long. It'll take a while. I grabbed my thinking goggles just before Tiny started nodding, and I managed to keep them on this time. Mom fixed her hair and then gestured for me to follow her into the barn. I need your help carrying a few things into the house, and then we'll start cooking. Cooking? Mom grinned. You'll see. For now, can you carry this and this? She handed me a tall bag of stacked, clear, and very flat jars. The bag was labeled Pare dishes. Then she handed me a bag of powder labeled agar powder. Finally, she tucked one of her old science journals under her arm. Back to the house to get the rest, she said, and waved for me to follow her. When we got into the house, I set the puree dishes and agar powder on the kitchen counter, and Mom put out the container of sugar and a big carton of beef broth and a container of salt. Sassafras, who missed most of the action by staying inside, paced at our feet and meowed loudly. I grabbed a chair for him. Mom flipped open her science journal and slid it towards me. I read the recipe out loud. Basic nutrient agar recipe. Ingredient: 2.5 teaspoons of sugar, 2.5 teaspoons of agar powder, 2 ounces of low salt beef broth. 2 cups. 2 cups of water. 1. Add all ingredients to the pot. Stir. 2. Heat up medium heat until the mixture begins to boil. Stir to keep the mixture from burning. 3. Once it boils, remove the pot from the heat and let it cool for 3 minutes. 4. Pour a thin layer of agar into the bottom section of each puree dish. 5. Allow the agar to set 30 minutes before plating bacteria. Remember to store puree dishes with bacteria somewhere warm for fast results. This kind of seems like making yogurt. I schemed the list of ingredients again, but way grosser. It's like we're cooking up some sugary, salty beef soup. Mom laughed. When you make an agar mixture, you're trying to create a place where almost all bacteria will grow. Different kinds of bacteria eats different sorts of things, so this recipe has a little everything. She typed something on her laptop, then turned it towards me. The screen was filled with a bunch of photos of those flat jar things, the puree dishes. When you made the yogurt, you couldn't see the bacteria, right? Mom asked. I shook my head. Right. It just looked like milk. Exactly. It was all mixed up, so it was impossible to see which parts were bacteria. Bacteria are really, really tiny, but when you get enough of them in one place, then make a dot like this. She pointed to the picture on her computer of a polka-dotted puree dish. The agar mixture will make a really strong gelatin. If you add bacteria on the surface of the cooled agar mixture instead of mixing it in, it will grow in that one spot. And after a while, if enough of it grows, you could see the dots and know that it's there. Cool. I scrolled through more pictures of Mom's computer. One had bright orange dots. Look at that one, sassafras. It's the same color as you. Mom agreed, but remember, some kinds of bacteria are very dangerous. After we add the bacteria from Tiny's cut to these puree dishes, we'll tape them shut and seal them in a Ziploc bag. And no matter how pretty, shiny, smooth, or sassafrasy the bacteria looks, you should never try to touch or open the puree dishes to get a better look. I know, I promise I won't. Mom and I worked together to make the agar recipe from her journal. We heated up everything on the stove, so the agar powder dissolved into a stinky soup-like mixture. This looks great, Zoe. Can you open all the puree dishes for me? Put one side of each dish into the cookie sheet, but don't touch the inside. If you do, bacteria from your hands can get in there and grow. We want to keep these clean so we can only grow Tiny's bacteria. I opened all the puree dishes carefully, and Mom slowly poured the hot agar mixture into the halves that were on the cookie sheet. She set a timer for 30 minutes. While we wait for these to get solid, Can you two grab the box of gloves and the box of cotton swabs from under the bathroom sink? Mom asked. Sassafras chattered excitedly. When we got back to the kitchen, I gave in and threw him a small handful of cotton swabs. He batted and chased them around the room while we waited. When the timer went off, Mom moved 3 of the puree dishes to the kitchen table. Before we do the real thing, I want you to practice adding the bacteria into the puree dishes. It's a little tricky. Remember how I said the cool agar is like a thick gelatin? I nodded. Sassafras bonked into my leg while chasing a runaway cotton swab. It's possible to poke through the surface of it, and if you do, it'll be harder to see the bacteria. The first step is to take the cotton swab and rub it gently on Tiny's cut. We'll pretend the table is Tiny's leg for now. I took the cotton swab and rubbed it really soft on the table. Perfect. Now lightly brush it across the surface of the agar in the first dish. I tried to, but my cotton swab got stuck in the agar. Arr. That's okay, said Mom. Try again. By the third dish, I was able to rub the cotton swab on the surface without poking through the agar. Sassafras proudly dropped a soggy cotton swab he'd caught at my feet. I giggled. Mom leaned over my shoulder. Nice work, Zoe. Now it's time to do the real thing. All right. That is the end of chapter 5. I will see you guys in the next video in chapter 6.